3, 2, 1, roll it. Hey!
What's
Welcome
up?
Welcome back to Ready to Take Live. So first of all, my name is Aubrey. I'll be your TD for today's show. I want to apologize for the late start. We had a fire drill in our building, so we were holding off for that. And now that we've got all of our safety concerns covered, we should be good to go. Today we're talking about captioning, and we're really excited. I'm going to throw it over to one of my co-hosts. How you doing, Nick?
Hey, good. How are you, Aubrey?
Doing pretty well. How's your week going so far?
Been great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Very productive.
And then we have a new face on today's show. Hey.
What's up, everybody?
This
How you
is
doing?
Corey.
Nice to meet you all.
Yeah. Not to be confused with Corey, the founder of LiveX. Another Corey.
It's a common.
Sometimes we have 2 or 3 Nicks on the show. Today we have one Corey and the other Corey's in his office. So
Love those. Love doubling up on those names.
doubling up on the Corys and the Nicks.
It's a LiveX tradition.
It really is. It really is. Thank you so much for watching. We should have a guest today. Do we have any luck with that, Corey?
I'm not
Status change?
seeing any. Oh, I do see him up actually.
Okay, let's bring in his mic. Wes, are you there? Hey, Wes, do you hear me? All right, well, we will keep working on that. So today we're talking about captioning. Wes is from Dynamic Captioning. They are the service who is captioning us today. But I will throw this over to Nick Nagurka to talk a little about the captioning that we're using today.
All right, so today we're doing burned-in captions from an EEG ICAP encoder. It's the HD492, I believe. Excellent unit, does HD SDI, so we're doing the show in 1080 today, live, and then it'll be up in 4K later. We're doing burned-in captions from the auxiliary output because Periscope does not see embedded captions. If you wanted to, you could go embedded or you could go any combination of embedded or burned-in captions. Basically what it does is it takes an HD SDI input, connects to ICAP via internet. ICAP sees it, they sign into your encoder, and your captioners, in this case from Dynamic Captioning, will hear audio and add captions to that sends the data back to the encoder and then embeds the captions on your SDI output. It's very, very simple, very easy to use, an excellent, excellent unit. Let's see, what else? So captioning, why is captioning useful? Captioning is useful for people who are hard of hearing, people who have English as a second language, when you need to translate between multiple languages and have them be switchable feeds. Captioning is extremely important for accessibility in your program, and we're going to talk a lot about that today.
I'm actually going to interrupt you just 1 second. Let's try Wes right now. He just sent me an email while we're talking about the beginnings of captioning. Wes, do you hear me? Do we hear you?
You hear me?
Yeah,
Hey.
we got Wes.
Okay.
So we just started talking about things, Wes. Sorry about that. The whole fire alarm threw us off. So let's go ahead and get a little background. This is Wes from Dynamic Captioning. If you just tell the audience a little bit about your background.
I'm a video and software development engineer. I worked with TCI's National Digital Television Center as a special projects engineer, where I really got familiar with closed captioning, and I've been writing software and building systems around captioning for the last 15 years or so, off and on.
Yeah, and you have a background in broadcast as well, so.
Yes, I was a chief engineer of a post-production house, and again of the Comcast Media Centers, now is what used to be the National Digital Television Center. We originated many networks for Discovery Networks and organizations like that.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Sorry about any technical difficulties. But we were just talking about the EEG encoder that we're using right now with our dynamic captioning, which is showing up on the screen in front of everyone. So yeah, we were talking about the importance of having it for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, or who have the English as a second language or anything like that. Did you have any piece you wanted to add to that part of the conversation?
Well, it's actually used much more than that. There are a lot of noisy environments where closed captioning is very helpful. Everybody's seen the captioning up on the football games at the sports bar when you're watching multiple games. Um, and it's also used in a lot of business applications. I know a large number of financial analysts we work with will watch multiple streams at one time, and obviously you can't listen to them all at once, so they use the captioning to keep track of many live events happening at one time.
That makes a whole lot of sense as well. And then we'll jump right into the first ever closed captioning broadcast. You want to talk about that, Nick?
Yes, the first ever captioned broadcast was in 1972 on a show called French Chef with Julia Child on PBS, becoming the first ever TV program to be accessible for deaf or hard of hearing viewers. So now in the U.S., in many other countries, captions are now required to be broadcast.
Is that what it looked like? I know, Corey, you did a lot of research on this.
This
and
was
Wes,
not actually.
not what it looked like.
No, this was just a graphic with one of her quotes. Unfortunately, yeah.
Wes, have you ever watched this broadcast?
I do not have access to recording of it. I know that it was open captioned. They used a character generator at the time and open captioned it, but it was done with the same techniques that we use for closed captioning today with electronic sonography.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Wow.
It was certainly, especially happening in 1972, that seems very ahead of its time, and allowing for accessibility. I know that that's obviously been an issue in the U.S. for a bit of time, but 72 seems like an early year for that to be in a widely accessible. Yeah. Can you do the Julia Child voice, Nagarka?
No, I could not.
No one's going to do it for me? Come on.
I think you're begging to do it.
Yeah, you sound
No, I'm
like
not
you want to
begging
do
to do
it.
it. It's funnier when someone else does it. Well, everyone can go watch Julie and Julia by Meryl Streep and get the Julia Child voice going. Cool. And then, Corey, you wanted to chat a bit about the different types of captioning?
Yeah, for sure. So Section 508 was actually the part of the rule in the Federal Acquisition Regulation that actually instated that broadcasts had to start using these captioning services on all live broadcasts, and that started that started type CEA 608, which was the first types of captions, which you can see here. These types of captions were the original standard, and they were embedded with the black box and white text, which I think everyone's pretty familiar with. I feel like we've all seen that. In this type of caption, it was supporting a few major languages, but not all. It was supported English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, Italian, German, and Dutch. They later added Korean and Japanese, but it was very limited character sets, and because of that, they advanced to what we know now as CEA 708. This was an updated standard. It has everything that 608 has, but a lot more flexibility. It offers all languages. You can do multiple languages simultaneously, and different text, different backgrounds, different colors, and it was built more for the digital world. So it gives you a lot more options, a lot more flexibility, and allows for more accessibility, which is really the point in the end.
Definitely. Wes, what's your input about 608 and 708?
Well, 608 was for standard definition television, and it was sent by encoding actually pulses of luminance into the vertical interval of the caption of the video. It was actually right at the border between the vertical interval and the live video. 708 is for digital broadcasting, and it's actually sent as metadata in the digital stream. So it's a very different technical approach, but because of down conversion requirements, the 608 data is actually sent along in the 708 data stream, so that you can still watch closed captioning on old standard definition televisions.
Gotcha. That makes sense. They made the accessibility accessible. Cool. Well, I have some questions for you specifically, Wes. What
Yes.
are captioning in the cloud and the reliability of it? What are you guys finding with that nowadays?
Well, if you mean delivery to cloud-based systems such as what you're using here today, the reliability of it is actually quite good because our communications network in the internet is really reliable. The downside of it is that every platform seems to have their own rule set for exactly how captioning should be handled, and I'm sure your engineers have struggled with that as well. Being able to interface with every different platform out there is quite a challenge. If you mean as far as generating captions with cloud-based services with AI, that is functional in very controlled and limited environments. If you have very clear, very distinct audio with no heavy foreign accents in the language and no background noise, it can do fairly well. It falls apart very rapidly in music or any sort of crowd situation, and especially if people are talking over each other. That's where a human mind is really the only thing that works still.
Yeah, so it's almost like you would need to have the same number of AI captioners as people you need to caption on the broadcast.
It's even worse than that. You would have to have isolated audio for each one, and that means no crowd noise. The man on the street interview is almost impossible for AI to handle.
Gotcha. And then at Dynamic, do you guys use any AI, or is it all still human captioners?
We have used AI in some areas, not so much for producing content, but for establishing time synchronization and quality checking. Really, there is no substitute for the human mind interpreting things.
That's very true.
That's so true.
Cool. Well, what are some innovative ways that you've seen people use captioning? We're going to talk about where captioning is kind of going, but what are some ways that you've seen people use it?
I think in financial analysis, we work with a company that produces broadcasts for the 10K and 8K quarterly filings. That has become really invaluable to their platform because we produce a fairly good quality transcript in real time that is very valuable to the financial analysis community. Obviously, those are then edited after the fact to get perfect transcripts.
So for that, sorry to interrupt you. For that, are those captions live going anywhere, or is it more of having the transcript immediately after that's more important?
Both. Financial analysis companies will sit and watch 8 or 9 streams per analyst watching our captions and other companies as well. And they will be making trades based on what the principals at these companies are saying during their conference calls. So accurate real-time captioning is literally their bread and butter. And we have a very high sense of responsibility to be accurate and quick with those.
Yeah, I mean, with
Certainly.
financial, you can't... One wrong decimal point and everything's gone downhill.
That's funny. I was just reading about that this morning. It was a sports betting situation where they screwed up the odds and were, I think, ended up being court ordered possibly to pay out. It was like 750 to 1 odds on a game that should have not had those odds. It was just a mistake made either by a computer or somebody just punching in a number and it was wrong. So accuracy is key. So many of those situations.
Definitely. Cool. Well, we'll get to talk a little bit more about that, but let's talk about where we see captioning going. So both Facebook and YouTube allow you to embed captions onto their site. So you're able to send your captioning to them, and then your audience is then given the option of turning the captions on and off. So this is similar to how you use your at-home television, and how on Netflix you can turn your captions on, and your TV you can turn your captions on, any of that good stuff. So it's still in the early stages, and some of them are still very inaccurate, but this is just a look into the future. Once these technologies become more advanced and the AI captioning becomes more accurate, or we figure out a way to make it more accurate, then also allowing this for translations will be more readily available through platforms. So my question would be, do you think that these like Netflix and these, are they using AI captioners, or do they have captioners take care of all of their pre-produced content before it goes out? Do you know, Wes, or do you guys have any idea?
I do. I'm under some non-disclosure agreements on that. I can say that most of this content is human produced and AI verified.
Copy that. That makes sense. I mean, it's different when it's not live content. You're able to actually look at a script and build it in. And it's funny, you can also tell sometimes with movies when the actor goes off script if you have the subtitles on, because the subtitles do not match what the actor is saying perfectly. Which to me, I assume is the actor's fault, not the subtitles' fault.
Actually, sometimes companies will re-edit a show to remove offensive content. Like if you're taking an HBO show down to a regular cable network, they'll remove some of the objectionable content, and some actually forget to correct the closed captioning.
Oh, it could be even more detrimental.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of, as in any job, but some fun mistakes that can happen when captioning. Funny slip of the finger or something, which can all be fixed after the fact. So
Fix it in post.
Well, yeah, if you're in post, if you're in live sports or live news, there's no time. That's where a really skilled real-time captioner is so valuable.
definitely, that's what we found. Shameless plug, but that's why we only use dynamic captioning, because we found them to be extremely accurate and fantastic to work with. So highly recommend Wes's team, Wes and Greg at Dynamic Captioning. Okay.
We should give a shout out to Nicole, who's doing our captioning
Nicole,
today too.
yes, I got to speak with her on the phone. That's the best part. Your captioner will call you and just check in, make sure everything's good. We did a test beforehand. Yeah, Nicole's been great to work with. Thank you. We're talking about social networks. We're talking about Facebook and YouTube. Instagram has been interesting because Instagram does not have captioning. You'll find a lot of videos, though, where people will put their captioning into the videos, like a lot of media brands now. Cheddar will do it. Large media brands that have produced videos will put it in. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or AOC, she is a representative from New York who is serving in the House of Representatives. She will use captioning in her Instagram stories, correct, Corey?
Yeah, so
stories, yeah.
She has a bunch of stories up where she uses the app Clip-O-Matic, and she uses captions like this, like you'll see here in this video, and it just plays as she's talking, just as a captioner will, but it's very innovative and it makes it very personal, which is obviously the trend and very important in politics, but just important overall. And it adds accessibility, whether you have your volume on or off, or you're hard at hearing people, or people who are learning a new language. Just as captioning is helpful overall, it's just expanding into different programs.
Yeah. So, Wes, are you guys seeing a lot of need for captioning over vertical content? Because I think that's been kind of where things are going as well.
We do work with the social media group of several large broadcast networks to do exactly this. A lot of them want open captioning because of the way Facebook displays the video without letting you hear the audio as you scroll by. They want open captioning so that people can engage with that content without having to actually start the audio.
That's very true. A lot of people do. I mean, when I scroll videos on social on my phone, I don't listen to them. I read them, and if they don't have captioning, I usually don't watch them.
Yeah.
So, is that the same for Nick and Corey? Do you guys do the same thing?
Yeah, I love watching videos with the captions on. I think it's easy. It's like if I don't want to pull my headphones out and I'm on the train, it's convenient, and I don't know. I'm a big fan of it.
And that's coming from an audio engineer.
Seriously.
Well, sometimes the audio on on those videos is terrible too, so it helps a little bit, you know.
It's true.
True.
What about you, Corey?
Yeah, same. Just adds another layer, and I think it's super useful. I think also like the engagement rates show that it's very useful as well. I think in media today, people's attention spans are lower, and there's so much content out there that you skip past a lot of content. But if you can get information before you have to click or do something else to interact with the video, you can kind of see if it's worth your time. And that just adds it. That's another layer that captioning adds. I definitely use it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll see if we get more viewers because we captioned this episode. Hey!
Hopefully. See what we can do.
Well, another strong use of captioning is for search engine optimization. That is a big use of captioning. If you have a text transcript of your video, it helps search engines find you much better.
Wow.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You're now searchable.
Didn't know that, yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Wow. So we're going to talk a little bit about jobs we've used captioning on before. But before we do that, Wes, can you talk to us about the captioners the human captioners that you have? Are these people who work from a captioning bank, or do a lot of people work remotely?
For our live captioning service, almost all of them work remotely out of their own homes, or some of them have offices, but most work out of their own homes. And they have specialized equipment setups that's very personal to them. The brand of steno machine they use is and caption software is something they set up for themselves. And we run them through a quality analysis before we put them on the air, and then we work with them as contractors. For offline captioning, what we call, when you have pre-recorded content, you send us your show and we give it back to you with captioning. We do that mainly out of our Grand Rapids headquarters.
That makes a lot of sense. But even you get to work remotely as well then, correct?
Yes, I'm actually in Western Colorado.
Which, that's very cool, because I feel like a lot of, we're seeing a lot of remote production come in. So we're able to use this MCR and send gear out, and then clients aren't having to pay for T&E because we bring all the feeds back here, and we actually switch the show live from here with extremely low latency. So I think being able to work in remote locations, or in the location, not having to send someone to the location of the actual job, is becoming extremely common. And so the idea that people are able to work either from home or from a space where in their local area is very, very good. And it's more, I can't think of words today. I'm telling you, this fire drill really took it out of me.
It helps us a lot. We have captioners in Utah working for channels in Australia, and we have captioners in Australia working for channels in Florida. So...
Well, they must have very odd schedules.
They do, but if you're a night owl and you really like working at 2 or 3 in the morning, there's a network somewhere that's in the middle of their day, and you can work for them.
That's very true. That's very true. Nick, you want to talk a little bit about some jobs that we've used captioning on in the past?
Yes, I do. So for one I would like to talk about is the Global Climate Action Summit, which we also used our EEG encoder and dynamic captioning for, which included this year it was in San Francisco at the Moscone Center. Our team handled all of the streaming for the event, which included streaming in, I believe, all the languages of the UN. Yeah,
there's literally in this picture right now, from the left to the right, it's Nick Walsh, Nick Nagurka, and Aubrey. And that's where we lived for a week. Captioning box was just directly behind us.
Yes, and all the racks and whatnot. It was great, though, because we embedded language. I think it was 6 languages, including English, as well as doing captions in English. And I don't think this time around we got a chance to do captions in all of the languages, which would have been really excellent to be able to do. But it was extremely important, and it was a client requirement to be able to stream this event. There we have Harrison Ford up on the plenary.
I think it was very important for, speaking of accessibility and whatnot, to be able to have an event like this available to the masses. You're talking about climate change, and no matter how you feel about that, this is a topic that's very important. And especially political, governmental, environmental, anything, it's like PBS, they had the first one. Anything that's public facing in that way, I feel like it's so important to allow everyone to have access to it, even more so than content that's like on ABC and Netflix and sitcom type of shows. It's so important for things that people like genuinely care about to be available to everyone, no matter what you need to be able to view it. So
You're basically disseminating public information to the public here, and it's not just entertainment. And so it becomes so much more important, I think, for people to be able to access that information. And it was wonderful to be a part of it.
yeah, definitely. And there was one other that we did recently, right?
Yes, it was the Oracle Code Conference, which was one of our early forays in the captioning here. This was in New York, and I think this was with one of our original captioning units, I think. Right,
It was, yes.
right.
It was not. We still use dynamic. It was with dynamic captioning, but we had a different encoder,
Right.
which we didn't really like. So you can message us and we'll tell you which one it was. But I don't want to bash them on air. So dynamic was great
EEG
though.
makes very good products.
Oh,
Yes,
yes,
we
they
like-
do.
we do
so
like
easy to
EEG.
use.
Yes. And if anyone watching would ever like to caption and doesn't want to pay for an encoder themselves, we're happy to rent ours or send ours with a tech and get that all set up for you as well.
Or pull down your feed.
Or pull down your feed and do
Yeah.
it from here because we do that as well. Yeah, Wes, any final thoughts for us?
I would just say to all your viewers who are considering doing this kind of work, when you're moving your events from traditional broadcast to cloud-based services and web streaming, don't forget the people that are deaf, don't forget the people that are hard of hearing, and don't forget the people that watch more than one thing at a time.
So true. Watching more than
Very
one thing at a
important.
time is very common. So that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, Nick's even talked about, from an audio perspective, the importance of captioning, the importance of audio. And
Sorry. Yeah. So the importance of having your mic close enough to your mouth so that everyone can hear, which is something that we've run into so many times where it's, if it's a live event, you have an audience and someone chooses to speak without a microphone and asks, "Oh, everyone here can hear me, right?" And to me that's sort of discourteous to the viewers at home because they can't hear you. No one's ever going to hear you, and yeah, maybe the people in the audience can, but maybe it's just really quiet, and it's not going to go out on the stream for people who are hard of hearing. It's just not it's not a team playing type of move.
yeah. No, definitely. And this just goes to say, like, this episode is obviously strictly about captioning, but accessibility in general and finding ways to really make sure that your audience is able to receive your message, whether it be captioning, whether it be a sign language interpreter, whether it be having a like headset for each person so that they can hear a louder signal for themselves if they're sitting in the back of the room. A lot of theaters will have that available. Anything that you can do that allows your audience to have
Have a better experience.
yeah,
really.
better experience, really understand your content is going to elevate your show no matter what. So I want to thank Wes so much for being on the show today. Again, dynamic captioning, we love them, and we couldn't live without them. And your insight's been great.
You're quite welcome.
Our Facebook, we've got a comment saying the SEO tip was fantastic. So that's always a good
Yeah,
way to
seriously.
sell it as well to
Yeah.
our clients. Being able to say that that's a bonus that they're getting is awesome. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Congratulations, Corey. You did your first Ready Take Live.
Thanks, guys.
As our graphics op.
It's been great.
And you know how we're going to end the show? We play that video?
You ready for it?
I think we are. We'll
So.
sign off with a quick best of luck on your next live production. We'll see you next week.
See you next time.